All right, welcome to part 2 of the subnetting. Hopefully part 1 was beneficial. They were really easy, and some of these are easy too, but they get slightly more difficult now, which is good. We want this to be a bit challenging. So let's have a look at number 6. A computer has an IP address of blah blah blah. Okay, 10.11.12.13. With a subnet mask, check that out. Different now, 255.255.0.0. It's a class B email address, subnet, IP address, sorry. And what is the subnet ID? This is really easy. So when we look at 255.255, we ignore those parts, okay? We ignore them. We're not interested in the last 2 octets. That 255.255 in the first two octets means that we are only interested in the first 2 octets. So really easy. B. Really simple. We're ignoring the last 2 octets. When we ignore something, we make it a 0. We're not interested. 0 interest. It's like if anyone annoys you and they're talking away, yap yap, and they're on your nerves, you say, you know what my favorite number is? That my favorite number is 0 because that's how much of interest I have in what you're saying. So we don't care. We're not interested. We'll give it a 0 attention. But the first 2, we are very interested in the first 2. So the subnet mask ID is that one. Now it gets interesting now. Now this is fascinating. Computer IP address has 10.11.12.13/16. What on earth is that? What's 16? What is that? Now, and then what's the subnet for that? So again, my trusty little map will help us out here. So what 16 means? It means how much of the IP address belongs to the network, or is the network mask. So what that 16 means is this. Check this out. I'm going to write 16 of the ones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's the first octet. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's the first one. I've got 16 bits here that are in ones. The last 2 octets are simply 0. Now, if we put those ones in here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, what does that equal? If you add them all up, 255. So that's a 255, 255, and they're zeros and zeros. That's the subnet mask. We're doing that in a notation, CIDR notation. They call it CIDR notation, or slash notation, or slash. So slash is /16. 16 for 16 bits. When you do IP version 6, they only use slash notation. They don't use network masks like that when you get to IP version 6. So get used to that, /16. Okay, so that's what that means. Just preparation for the tougher questions. If you get a /17, for example, you know what that means? That means that we add another one, and that's becoming a classless IP address now. It's not classful anymore. It's not a class C anymore, class B anymore. It's a CIDR, classless. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and there we go. There's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Let me just clean that up a bit. So that's just a bit of letting you know that this is what we're going to look at in the future exercises. So just get ready for it. So I'm just going to pause this while I clean the screen up a bit. So what does this mean now for us? So that means that we're only interested now that we know that's a 255, 255, we've converted that. then all we care about is that now. Okay, so this is a little bit tricky now. We're gonna have to work a bit harder now for this answer, and this is what we're going to do. So we're going to do this. So this is our network. These are going to be our host. We've got 2 octets that we can dedicate to our hosts. That is going to be the subnet ID. And we'll do a /16. So that's our subnet ID. And this is going to go all the way. And there is thousands and thousands, I think 64,000 possible combinations here of IP addresses. So we're going to go all the way to 10.11. Check this out, 255.255. That's a lot of IP addresses. That's going to be the broadcast address for that network. So for that one network, we've got thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of IP addresses. So that we start with a subnet ID of 0.0, and our broadcast is 255.255. Lots and lots of IP addresses. You would only use this for a really, really large organization. And so the answer will then be D for Delta. Okay. All right, excellent. So we're getting there. We're starting to understand these concepts. It's a bit of gardening here, so we clean up. Perfect. I'm just going to pause while I do a little bit more gardening. All right, so let's go to question 8. A server cannot communicate with other subnets in the network. The IP address is that. Subnet mask is that. You suspect that the PC has been configured incorrectly. You know that that's the sub network ID. Ooh, this is interesting. Okay, we're going to do some subnetting here. And the broadcast is that. So we've got an issue here. So that's the subnet ID, and we've got a broadcast here. What is the correct subnet? So that's definitely wrong subnet. That's definitely incorrect, for sure. And let's do this. So what are we looking at that's interesting here? So let's look at the facts. We've got a subnet ID, which is, remember, the first IP address in the network that's not usable. We can't use it, but it's the first one. 136.128.128. Now that's interesting. Usually isn't that usually a 0? Interesting. The subnet mask that's been given to us is 255.255 and 0. If that's the case, if that is true, if that was right, then this should be the network ID, the sub ID. That should be the answer to that. That should be, but it's not. That is the correct subnet ID. That's the correct one. Okay. So the last octet is the interesting one. This is okay. The first 3 octets, we're fine. We're good with this. But this one is not consistent. That we've been told that is the correct subnet ID, because it says you know that the sub ID is 128 at the end there. And we know the broadcast is 255. Okay. So, but we've got it as 0, because it has to be 0 if it's that subnet ID. The network mask there. So let's work it out here. So how are we going to do this? How are we going to find out what the correct subnet mask is for that? Okay, a bit of a challenge, but we'll get it done. So we know it's definitely not 0. Definitely not. All right. So the interesting part is this one here. This is the interesting octet, the last one. We're not going to worry about this. We're not worrying about that. Perfect. It's fine. There's no issue there. But that one is interesting. So we're going to, so whatever we do here, is working on the last octet. Check this out. What number is that up here? What is the number up there? That's a 128. So if we put a 1 there, that equals the 128. So the rest will be zeros for the host. So let's look at this. Don't worry about the 136, 186, like the 28. We're not changing it. That's fine. No problems there. But this one here is interesting. So that is the answer to that one. So what is the network mask for that? So that's correct. That's correct. That's correct. So 255.255.255. But the last one is not 0. The last one is 128. There's your answer. Okay. That is the correct subnet mask. By the way, if you're doing it slash notation, if you were to do that, remember that's 8, 8, 8, and that's a 1 there because of just the 1 bit there. So that becomes a slash 25. Okay, 8, 16, 24 plus 1 is 25. Okay. So that's the correct answer. It's getting a bit tricky. I know that it's a bit, a bit out there. You gotta sort of like get out of your comfort zone a bit now. We're starting to get into some interesting, tricky parts. I'll just clean up here. So we can go to the next one. Wish there was an easy way to do this. I'm sure there's another apps and programs that can help us. But anyway, question 9. We'll do 2 more. Have a break, and we'll do the last one. Question 9. Yeah, a computer has an IP address of blah blah blah, with a subnet mask of 255.255.128. We have the same one again. What is the subnet ID mask that the computer belongs to? All right, let's write down the facts that we know. It's always good to write the things that we know is happening here. So 10.20.30.40, that's our IP address. We know this. This is fact. The subnet mask is 255.255.255.128. That's the subnet mask ID. Perfect. Sorry, no, that's the subnet mask. Yes, that's right, subnet mask. So what is the subnet ID? Which subnet does this IP address belong to? Right. So easy. I'll go back to my trusty map there, and I'll figure out the how we do that in binary. And it's really easy. If there's 128 up there, I just add a 1. I don't worry about the first 3 octets, remember? But that's the interesting octet. I'm not interested in this. I'm only interested in the interesting octet. So the rest is 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. Now check this out. How many networks can I have? Okay, we always start with 0. So using this is how we can do it. So the networks that we have is 10.20.30. That's always going to be the same. But we can start with 0. That's the first one. Okay? And we count, we count in 128s. That's the interesting. This is the incremental. This is the magic number here. We're going to count in 128. So the second network will be 128 because we're counting in 128. We start from 0 and then the next one will be 128. We only have 2 networks, and this is why. 0, and we count, we go like 1, 2, 3, until we get to 127 is the number just before 128. Let's separate this. Okay. Dot 30.127, and in the second network we count all the way down to dot 30 to 255. 255, yeah. Okay, where does that fit in? That fits in here. So the subnet ID is this one. And if you don't believe me, let's check it out. So that's 9. Question 9, I've got to read upside down. And the answer is there, 9A. All right. What is the broadcast? So if we go to question 10, what's the broadcast ID? So it's still 40, still the same subnet marks, so we can still use this. We have to remember again, don't forget, we cannot use this because it's a subnet ID, and we cannot use that one. Why? Because that's the broadcast. We can use 10.20.30.1 all the way to 126. That's their usable IP address. We can use them for host, routers, Apple, Raspberry Pis. If you've got little nanobots running inside your body, you know, the ones that they injected into us during COVID, the ones that get activated when you walk under a 5G tower, we can assign these IP addresses in that network with that range between 1 and 126. So the answer for that question is that B. So if we go 10, what's the answer down here is 10, it'll be 10B. Making sense? Hope so. All right, so that will end part 2. We've got a few left to complete part 3, so I decided to divide it up into 3. So thank you for watching this. Hopefully you've got some stuff out of this. So, you've learned a few things here. There's different ways to do this. There are better ways. There are worse ways. But this is the way that's worked well for me. And so long as I do it properly and I write it down properly, I never fail with this one. It's just when I rush that I muck this up. So anyway, I'll see you in the next episode. Thank you for watching, and see you shortly.